She belonged to the house. He belonged to the shadows. But the night they chose each other, everything became dangerous. Silver Creek Estate stood wide and elegant against the Georgia horizon. Tall windows, polished floors, rooms filled with light. But none of it reached her. Clara Whitfield moved through those halls like something carefully placed. Not living, not free, just present. From the outside, she was everything a woman was supposed to be. Well-dressed, well-spoken, married into power. But inside, there was only silence. The kind that grows heavier each day, until it feels like breathing through something you cannot see. Edward Whitfield had not always been like this. There had been a time when his voice was softer, when his hands did not leave marks. But time had stripped something away from him, or perhaps revealed what had always been there. Now, his presence filled the house with tension, and his absence did not bring relief, only waiting. Clara had learned how to exist between those moments. Careful steps, quiet words, eyes lowered at the right time, because survival sometimes meant becoming invisible. But someone always saw her, not from the chandeliers, not from the dining table, from outside, among the workers. There was a man no one paid attention to. Isaiah. He spoke little, moved quietly, worked without complaint. The kind of man people forget is even there. But Isaiah noticed everything. He noticed the way Clara held her breath before entering a room, the way her hands trembled, just slightly, when she thought no one was looking, the way her smile never reached her eyes. And though he said nothing, something in him refused to look away. Days passed. Nothing changed on the surface. Edward came and went, his temper rising without warning. Clara remained silent, and Isaiah stayed in the background. But something invisible had begun to shift. A thread, so thin it could barely be felt, but strong enough to pull two lives closer. It happened in the garden. Late afternoon, the sun low, casting long shadows across the stone path. Clara walked slowly, not because she wanted to be there, but because it was the only place she could breathe. Her steps faltered, just slightly. Her hand reached for the edge of a stone bench, and for a moment, she almost fell. Isaiah was there, not close, but close enough. He hesitated, because stepping forward crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed. But leaving her like that was something he could no longer do. He moved. "Are you all right, ma'am?" His voice was low, careful, but real. Clara looked at him, not as a worker, not as someone distant, but as a voice she hadn't heard in a long time. Concern, genuine. She nodded quickly. "I'm fine." The words came automatically. Her eyes stayed on him for a second too long. And in that moment, something passed between them. Not spoken, not understood, but felt. After that, their paths crossed more often. Never planned, never obvious. Just small moments. A glance across the yard. A pause that lasted half a second longer than it should. A silence that no longer felt empty. Clara began to feel it first. The difference. The way the world softened. Even if only slightly, when she knew someone saw her. And Isaiah, for the first time in years, found himself waiting. Not for orders, but for her. Neither of them spoke about it, because they didn't need to. Some things grow quietly, and by the time you notice them, they are already too strong to stop. After that afternoon, something changed. Not in the house, not in the rules, but in the silence between them. It was no longer empty. It carried meaning. Clara began to notice the smallest things. The way Isaiah would step aside, not just out of habit, but with awareness. The way his eyes never lingered too long. yet always seemed to understand more than he should. And somehow, that quiet understanding became the only place she felt safe. Days moved slowly at Silver Creek, each one repeating the last. Edward's temper, unpredictable, sharp, his absence, longer than before, and when he returned, it was never with peace. Clara endured it, as she always had, but now, something inside her resisted, not loudly, not visibly, but steadily, because once someone sees you, truly sees you, it becomes harder to disappear again. Isaiah felt it too. At first, he tried to ignore it, stayed further away, spoke less, worked longer hours, but the distance did nothing, because this was not something created by proximity. It was something that had already taken root. Their next real moment came at dusk, near the water well, far from the main house. Clara had gone there alone. She said it was for air, but she knew better. She was looking for something, or someone. Isaiah was already there, standing still, as if he had been waiting, without admitting it. For a moment, neither spoke. The light faded slowly, shadows stretching long across the ground, and the quiet between them was no longer uncomfortable. "You don't have to say you're fine every time," Isaiah said. Clara looked at him, surprised, not by the words, but by how gently they were spoken. "I don't know what else to say," she replied quietly. He nodded, because he understood that too. "You don't have to say anything," he said. And somehow, that made it easier to breathe. That night, Clara didn't return to her room immediately. She stayed outside longer than she should have, listening, not to the wind, but to the absence of fear, something she had not felt in years. After that, the line between them began to blur, not in ways others could see, but in ways that mattered. Their conversations remained brief, careful, but deeper. They spoke of small things, weather, work, but beneath it, there was something else, understanding, recognition, a quiet connection neither of them dared to name. But Silver Creek was not a place where things like this could exist safely. Walls had ears, eyes watched without warning, and even silence could betray you. Edward began to notice something, not clearly, but enough. The way Clara seemed less afraid, the way her eyes no longer dropped as quickly, lingered, just slightly longer, in places she never used to be. And suspicion does not need proof to grow. It only needs change. One evening, he returned earlier than expected. The house felt different to him. Too quiet, too still. Clara stood in the hallway when he entered, and for a brief moment, she did not lower her eyes. That was all it took. His expression shifted. Not anger at first, but something colder. Something that watches before it strikes. From that night on, the air in Silver Creek changed. Heavier, tighter, like something waiting for the moment it could finally break. And somewhere beneath that tension, two people who had found something real were already standing too close to the edge to turn back. The storm came without warning. One moment, the air was still. The next, the sky broke open. Rain slammed against the roof, wind tearing through the trees. And inside Silver Creek, something else was building. Edward had been drinking, not heavily, but enough. Enough to sharpen what was already there. Suspicion. He watched Clara that night. Not directly, but constantly. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she avoided him, just a little too carefully. "You've changed." The words came quietly, but they landed hard. Clara froze, only for a second, but he saw it, always saw it. "I don't know what you mean," she said, her voice steady, but her hands, They betrayed her. Edward stepped closer, slowly, like someone who didn't need to rush. Don't lie to me. The storm outside roared louder, as if the world itself was trying to drown the moment. But inside, everything felt sharper, clearer, more dangerous. His hand reached out, not striking, not yet, just enough to remind her. He could. You think I don't notice, he said softly. The way you look past me, the way you disappear. Clara didn't answer, because there was no answer that wouldn't make it worse. And that silence was enough. Edward's grip tightened, not violent, but controlled, the kind that leaves no mark, but never forgets. You belong here. The words were not shouted. They didn't need to be. They don't. Something inside Clara shifted, not loudly, not suddenly, but permanently. For years, she had endured, survived, adjusted, but in that moment, she realized something simple. She was not afraid of losing this life. She was afraid of never leaving it. Outside, the storm raged harder. Lightning split the sky, and for a brief second, the entire house lit up. And in that flash, Edward saw it. Not fear, not submission. Something else. Something he had never seen in her before. Defiance. His expression changed instantly, because men like him know exactly when control begins to slip, and they never allow it. Who is it? The question came cold, precise. Clara said nothing, but that silence confirmed everything. Edward let go, stepped back, and for a moment, he smiled, not kindly, not calmly, but like someone who had already decided something. I'll find out. Clara didn't wait. She didn't argue, didn't explain, because she understood now. There was no fixing this, no returning to what it was. Only one direction left. That night, she didn't go to her room. Instead, she stepped outside, into the storm. Rain soaking through her dress instantly, wind pulling at her hair. But none of it mattered. For the first time, she was not thinking about surviving. She was thinking about leaving. Isaiah was already there, near the edge of the property, where the trees began to thicken, as if he had felt it coming, as if some part of him knew this moment would arrive. He saw her immediately, and everything in his expression changed, because he understood, without words. He knows. Clara's voice was barely audible over the storm. Isaiah didn't ask how, didn't ask when, because none of that mattered anymore. What do you want to do? He asked. Simple, direct, no hesitation. Clara looked at him, rain running down her face, mixing with something else. I can't stay. Those 3 words changed everything. Isaiah nodded. Once. That was all. Because from that moment on, there was no more distance between them. No more hesitation. Only decision. And decisions have consequences. Behind them, Silver Creek stood in the storm, windows glowing faintly in the dark. A place that had held them both, in very different ways, and now was about to lose them, because some lines, once crossed, do not allow you to ever go back. They didn't have time to plan, not properly, because once a man like Edward begins to suspect, time becomes the most dangerous thing you have. They met only once more before leaving. Brief, careful, hidden behind routine. Isaiah spoke first. There's a road past the south trees, leads toward the river. Clara listened, not as someone unsure, but as someone already gone. There's a boat? She asked. Isaiah nodded. Old, but it'll hold. Silence followed. Not empty, but heavy with what they both understood. If they failed, there would be no second chance. That night, the estate was quieter than usual. The storm had passed, but it had left something behind. Stillness, the kind that listens. Edward had not come to her room, which was worse, because absence, from a man like him, often meant preparation. Clara didn't wait to find out. She packed nothing, took nothing, because anything that tied her to that house was something she had already decided to leave behind. When she stepped into the hallway, every sound felt louder. Her breath, her steps, even the silence itself. She moved carefully, past the doors, past the long shadows cast by dim lamps, and for a moment, she thought she heard something. A shift, behind her. She didn't turn around, because fear would slow her down. And slowing down was not an option anymore. Outside, Isaiah was waiting, hidden near the edge of the trees, exactly where he said he would be. When he saw her, he stepped forward immediately. "You ready?" Clara didn't answer. She just nodded, because words were too small for what this was. They moved quickly, not running, but not walking slowly either. The space between them, gone. No longer careful, no longer distant. Just two people, choosing the same direction. The trees closed around them, dark, thick, swallowing the estate behind them. For a moment, it felt like freedom, like they had already made it. Then, they heard it. A horse, distant, but coming closer, fast. Isaiah stopped, just for a second, listening, measuring. Then, "We don't have time." Clara felt it instantly. That shift. The moment when escape becomes pursuit. They ran. Now there was no choice. Branches snapping beneath their feet, breath breaking in the cold air, the sound of hooves growing louder behind them. Closer, closer. The river came into view. Dark water, moving slowly. And beside it, the boat, exactly where Isaiah said it would be. Old, worn, but still there. "Go," Isaiah said. Clara didn't hesitate. She stepped in first, hands gripping the edge as the boat shifted beneath her weight. Isaiah followed immediately, untying the rope with shaking hands. Not from fear, but from time running out. The sound behind them, closer now, too close. A voice. Edward, calling out into the dark. Not shouting, not yet, but certain. Certain enough. Clara. The name cut through everything. Sharp, possessive, final. Clara closed her eyes for a second, because hearing it almost pulled her back. Almost. Then she opened them again, and didn't look behind. Isaiah pushed the boat away, water pulling them slowly outward, the distance beginning to grow. Not enough. Not yet. Edward reached the riverbank just as the boat drifted free, his silhouette sharp against the dim light. Still, watching. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Just distance, growing, and something breaking that could never be repaired. Edward didn't chase, didn't shout, didn't follow. He just stood there, until the darkness swallowed them completely. And in that silence, Clara understood something she had never allowed herself to believe before. She was gone, truly gone, and whatever came next would no longer belong to him. The river carried them through the night, slow, silent, as if it understood. This was not just escape. This was ending one life and beginning another. Neither of them spoke at first. There was nothing to say. That wouldn't break the moment. Clara sat still, hands resting on the edge of the boat, watching the dark water move beneath them. For the first time in years, no walls, No footsteps behind her. No voice waiting to call her back. Just distance. Growing. Isaiah rode steadily. Not fast, but certain. Every movement deliberate. Because rushing now would only bring mistakes. And they had come too far to make one. Dawn came slowly. A thin line of light stretching across the horizon. Turning the water from black to gray to something softer. Clara noticed it first. The way the air changed. The way her chest felt lighter. Without her even realizing it. Is this far enough? She asked quietly. Isaiah looked ahead, then back at her. And for the first time, he didn't answer with certainty. It's far enough to start. That was all she needed. Not safety. Not promises. Just a beginning. They reached land sometime after sunrise. Not a town. Not yet. Just open ground. Trees. Space. Isaiah stepped out first, pulling the boat in. Then turned back to her. Clara hesitated. Just for a moment. Because stepping out meant there was no going back. Then she stood and stepped forward onto something that finally felt like her own. The days that followed were not easy. There was no house waiting for them. No comfort. No certainty. Only work. Long days. Building something from nothing. Learning how to exist. Without fear guiding every decision. But there was something else now. Something stronger than everything they had lost. Choice. Clara learned how to speak again. Not carefully. Not cautiously. But freely. Isaiah stayed close. Not out of duty. But because he wanted to. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't just surviving either. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, life stopped feeling like something fragile. It became something real. Built. Day by day. Together. One evening, as the sun began to fall, Isaiah stood beside her. Quiet, as he always was. But different. Because now, he wasn't standing at a distance. I don't have much, he said. Clara turned to him. But what I have, I want to build it with you. It wasn't a grand promise. Not polished. Not perfect. But it was honest. And that was something she had never been given before. Clara smiled. Not the careful one. Not the one meant to please. But something real. I don't need much, she said softly. Just this. And that was enough. But even as the days grew lighter, and the nights quieter, there were moments when Clara would stop. Look back. Not physically, but in thought. Because leaving doesn't mean forgetting. And freedom doesn't erase what came before. Some nights, she would wake, expecting to hear his voice, expecting to feel that weight again. And when it didn't come, there was relief, but also something else. Understanding of just how far she had traveled. They never returned to Silver Creek, never spoke of it again, but it remained somewhere behind them, not as a place, but as a reminder of what it means to choose your own life, even when everything tells you you shouldn't. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing you can do is not running away. It's deciding you deserve to.